My name is Rick Petherbridge, and I'm here to talk tennis. Last week, we talked a lot about older players playing in USTA events and also really wanting to encourage the USTA to have more leagues and more opportunities for older players. And following up on that one last week is this week, we're going to talk about the things that, older players have to do in order to be able to play tennis and to stay active, right? Because, it's one thing to do these things in your 40s. It's totally different when you're in your 70s. So you really have to work a lot harder in terms of staying healthy, uh, maintaining your physical strength, and your health. And I think all of us as we age have experienced that. So I'm going to talk about my own personal experience and the changes that I've had to make, and sort of the evolution that I've gone through over the last 5 or 6 years in terms of trying to continue to play tennis and being sort of fit enough to play tennis. So let me start off and say that, I retired at age 65. That was 5 years ago. And one of the things that I did that I think has really helped me was that when I retired, I started going to a wellness doctor. And what I mean by a wellness doctor is a doctor that you go to not when you're sick or you have some kind of problem, but when you're healthy, and they're monitoring your health as you age, and they're focusing on longevity, right? So they're giving you ideas about what you can do in terms of your, you know, physical workouts, in terms of your nutrition, in terms of your sleep, in terms of your social life, um, with medicine, vaccines, just all the different things that you can do to uh, make your life better, and to age gracefully, and to live longer, but not just live long, healthier and fitter. So that's one of the things that I did. But let's talk more specifically about tennis. And one of the things that happened to me, and I think when I talk to older players, this is something that's pretty universal, right? And that is as you age, um, physically, you have to do more to keep your body healthy. And you start having different types of problems that impact on your tennis game, and your ability to play tennis regularly. So, one of the things that I noticed over the last 5 years is I love to play tennis. When I was in my 40s and 50s, I always played tennis like 4 or 5 times a week. I thought when I was retired, I'd be able to continue to do that. And the truth is that for health reasons, I've had to back off of that a little bit. That as I get older, as my bones and my joints age, um, it's not healthy for me to play tennis 4 or 5 times a week. That's just too much pounding on my feet, on my joints, and on my bones. And I need to have low impact workouts. And if I can, I've realized that the best thing for me to do is to play tennis one day and then have a low impact workout the next day. And so let me be specific about some of the things that I've done, right? So um, if I play tennis on Monday, then I do Pilates on Tuesday. And I know that's a low impact workout. It gives my body a chance to recover, especially the joints. Um, and then the next day I can play tennis. And then the next day I'll do like a personal training session. Um, but again, tell my trainer that, I want to be careful about not doing high impact workouts, because I'm going to play tennis 3 times a week if I can, which is my goal. And that means on the other days, I have to do low impact workouts, uh, but designed right to allow me to continue to play tennis, right? So, strengthening my core, stretching, making sure I get like a full body workout, not just working on uh, the muscles that I need for tennis. And what I realized is that I have less injuries now than I used to because I've deliberately uh, tried to break up the high impact tennis days and space them out and have a low impact workout or a rest day. Because obviously, once a week you're going to need a rest day as well, where you just allow your body to heal. Um, and then, even on a rest day, hopefully I'm going to be doing some stretching and I'm going to be doing some walking. I'm going to do of activities that are just good, right? And don't cause any wear and tear. Right? So, my schedule right now is that I do every Monday I do Pilates. Tuesday I play tennis. Um, Wednesday I play tennis because I have a regular game. Ideally, I that out. Then I have a personal workout training session on Thursday. Um, and then sometimes I take a rest day on Friday. Sometimes, if I can, I get a tennis day. And then usually we have a match on the weekend or a practice on the weekend, right? And so this is something that I think everybody who's in their 60s and 70s, and even the players that are in their 80s, are realizing that they're having to limit the amount of time that they play tennis because that's a high impact type of exercise, especially if you're playing repetitively and you're running and you're lunging and you're jumping. That's just hard on your body, right? Uh, we're all different, especially if you're lighter and you are in great health. You might be able to play a little more. If you're heavier, you might have to play a little bit less. It depends, how much pounding your body can take, how much, how well your joints are holding up. So that's something that I'm really aware of, and that I have to continue, right? So, week by week, I go and see like, how much tennis can I, and I want to make sure that, and I think everybody's different, like, but some of the body areas that I think people have to be really careful with, I think the shoulder is a joint that most people have to be careful about. The serve is a really important part of tennis, and that puts a lot on your shoulder. Also, overheads put a lot of stress on your shoulder. And when you're hitting a high forehand, that can also put a lot of stress on your shoulder, right? So that's a joint that I think for most of us as we get older, you're going to feel a little bit of the wear and tear, right? You're going to have to be careful with it. And you can do that by limiting how much you play and also just strengthening the muscles around the shoulder, and then stretching, right? And stretching is a big component. Uh, I think a lot of people don't understand how important that is. I believe that is crucial to sort of injury prevention, that people who stretch regularly and make sure that, the big joints, right? And the bigger muscles, arm or your shoulder, your knee, or the muscles around your knee, your quad, your um, calves, right? Your hamstrings. If you don't take the time to do the stretching, um, you're going to see more injury. So I think stretching is really an important part of your exercise routine, um, and really helps with injury prevention. So, um,
What is Pilates exactly? I mean, I asked you before the show, uh, what do you do when you do that?
right. So, I have a private 1 hour lesson with a Pilates instructor. And for me, uh, it's a 1 hour workout where um, she carefully gives me a full body workout. And she makes sure I'm working each area of my body sort of independently. So what I mean by that is there'll be some exercises for just my right arm, some for my left arm, some for my right leg, some for my left leg. Occasionally, you'll do both arms and both legs together, and also for your core. And basically, what she's doing is she's looking at your entire body and making sure you're getting even development throughout your body, right? And I think what happens for a lot of us, we do one type of exercise, maybe our arms get strong or our legs get strong, um, but we're not getting even development, and we're not getting the strong core that we need, which is really important. I believe a strong core also really helps with injury prevention, right? And also, like what I do with my Pilates instructor, we talk, right? I say, look, I play a lot of tennis. My right shoulder is frequently sore. She goes, okay, we will work on that. We'll work on that to strengthen the muscles around the shoulder, but we'll also do stretching, um, because that'll help protect your shoulder as well. For me, also, an area of issue that she spotted is that my low back can get stiff, right? And so where every time we're working on core, one by strengthening the core muscles that helps take stress off of the lower back. And we're always doing stretching exercises for what she calls the C back, which is a particular part of the lower back. Um, but that's a great thing about Pilates, that if you have like an issue with your shoulder or your lower back or your knee or whatever part of the body that's bothering you, you can specifically address it in Pilates. And you can get this full body workout where you're really striving for even development. Like, so let's talk about tennis players, right? I'm a tennis player with a one-handed backhand. Well, what does that mean? It means my right arm and my right side is stronger. It's my dominant side over my left, because I just use it more. So again, one of the things that she's going to do as part of my Pilates workout is to make sure that I get even development on my left side, so that I work my left arm and my left side, and I work it with the same amount of weight or resistance as I do on the right side. And I think that that is a really important thing to be conscious of, this sort of even development. And I think it also helps in terms of injury prevention. And one of the last things I want to say about Pilates is that it was really developed. The whole idea came from coming up with an exercise routine to help athletes who are injured recover from injury. Um, so the whole science of Pilates is really based on that. So I think it's particularly good for older people who have more injuries. At least that's been my experience. And I think when I talk to most people that, sadly, that's one of the things that age does, right? We just get injured more often, and it takes us longer to heal from our injuries in our 60s and 70s than when we were 20 and 30, and our body just seemed to work fine without any um, help. All right. So that's a little bit about my physical routine, right? And that's only part of it, right? Because in addition to having regular workouts, um, I feel like stretching is a really important thing. And so what I do now that I didn't do when I was in my 40s and 50s is a couple times a day, I make a point of doing a little walking, and then before or after my walk, doing a little stretching, right? And I've noticed that, over time, and one of the things about these ideas is they don't really help if you do them for a week or if you do them for a month, right? I mean, you really have to commit to having this routine, and you have to do it for months. And that's when you really start seeing the difference. And for me specifically, I've seen the biggest improvement in terms of my range of motion. So the stretching has really changed. I was losing a lot of my range of motion as I got into my middle 60s. And then once I started walking like a couple times a day, not being careful, like doing it in the morning when I get up, doing it in the afternoon after lunch, and then doing it at night after dinner, right? So that I'm not just doing it once during the day, I'm doing it throughout the day. Um, and then also the stretching, either before or after I walk, depending on how I feel. Um, and I find that when I do that, it's like, I'm lubricating my body. I just notice that I'm less stiff. I move more fluidly, um, and my body just feels better, right? And so that if you take this extra time to make sure, not just once a day, because as we get into our 70s, you have to do it more often than that. Um, and you have to be careful about, sitting. In or lying down in one position because it's easy for your body to stiffen up. And that's why you want to gradually in the morning, afternoon, and evening, do some of these walking and stretching exercises. And I think if you do that, you'll notice that like in terms of, I used to have a tough time just touching my toes, right? Sometimes I could only reach down to my ankle, right? Now I can touch my toes, and that's because I've been doing this for years now, right? The Pilates, the walking, the stretching, um, and it's made that kind of a difference for me. And I also feel like it's also helped me in terms of injury prevention, right? That I'm getting injured a little bit less than I used to, and I'm also able to recover faster, right? Because, I sort of know how to take care of my body in a way that I didn't know when I was in my 40s and 50s because I just sort of took it all for granted.
Do you follow a certain type of diet now, or you?
Right. So one of the things that my wellness doctor that I started going to right when I retired at age 65 said, Rick, we're going to take a look at your diet. And, I'm going to tell you what a really healthy diet is. And, you're going to need to make some changes, right? So, I think I had the normal American diet, and she immediately said, Rick, you're eating way too much meat. You're eating way too much carbohydrates. Um, and that was okay when you were younger, but now you've got to eat a lot more fruit. You've got to eat a lot more vegetable. Um, and so it was tough for me, and I'll be really specific, right? So she said, I'm going to tell you that you can only eat meat one time a day. So if you're going to eat meat for dinner, then that means no meat for breakfast, no meat for lunch, right? And it means that also you're going to focus on the foods that have the most nutrients for your body. And in your case, the 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 areas that you needed to get more nutrients from was eating more fruits, which for me was easy because I like fruits. It just meant, paying more attention to that. And then eating more vegetables. And for me, that was a little bit harder because I don't like vegetables quite as much. But I understand the importance of that and also understanding which vegetables have the most nutrients and making sure I focus on them. So I'll be specific about my diet, right? No eggs, no bacon for breakfast. That's off the table, right? I can have oatmeal and then I have a bunch of fruit, whatever kind of fruit I have, right? Mixed berries, bananas, whatever, right? That's a good way to start your day. And it's a good way to get some of the fruit nutrition that you need in. I used to eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch, right? And my wellness doctor, Dr. Young, goes, no, I want you to eat fresh vegetables. You're going to have a fresh vegetable salad for lunch as often as you can do it. I'd like you to have it 7 days a week. Not only that, don't I don't want you to have like you know, a normal salad where you've just got lettuce, or, and then one or two vegetables. That's not a healthy thing, right? So it's got to be um, something where you have uh, spinach, which is your healthiest leafy vegetable, and then followed by a bunch of other stuff, broccoli, carrots. And I want you to actually sit down and research which fresh vegetables have the most nutrients. And I want you to include them in like a chopped salad. And I want you to eat that 4 or 5 times a week. And then again, with dinner, you can have meat. Try to stay away from red meat or fattier meat if you can. Um, and not go too heavy on carbohydrates, right? So look, if you like potatoes, stay away from French fries, have a baked potato. uh you know Look, if you're going to eat bread, have a healthy bread like whole wheat or sourdough. So these were all the nutrition ideas that I got. And the other thing she told me was, look, as you get older, you need to lose weight. You just do, right? Even if you're not overweight, um, it's just easier on your body. So you have to do a little bit of what she calls calorie restriction. And none of us like to do that, but we have to cut back on that. And also because we become a little bit less active as we age, so we're not burning off as many calories as we used to. So that's another thing that we have to be aware of. So yeah, no, I've totally changed my breakfast and my lunch, and definitely cut back in terms of red meat and carbs in terms of my dinner. And I noticed the benefits. Absolutely. I've lost a little bit of weight, but I also know that I feel better, right? And I have more energy. So really feel those changes are important. They're not easy, but you know, these are the sacrifices that we need to make if we want to be healthy into our 80s. And that's my plan.
So we have like about 7 minutes, 6 minutes. If we want to talk about possibly Miami, what's going on, what's coming up with the clay season. Um,
Sure, let's talk Miami. I think both Indian Wells and Miami are great tournaments, and we get to see the best players play. Certainly, Carlos Alcaraz has gone out earlier than expected in both of those tournaments. I think he was due for that after having won the US Open and the Australian Open back to back. Sinner won Indian Wells. Looks like he's on the way to win Miami. So that's good too, right? Shows that he'll be challenging again, hopefully for the next Grand Slam. And then it's been really good to see some of the young players coming up because that makes tennis more exciting. Last night, I watched a match between Arthur Fields, who's 21 from France, against Tommy Paul, and he won that in a third set tiebreak. And he's just really impressive. He's got a talented game. When I'm looking for the players that could come up and challenge, get into the top five, maybe even have a shot at beating Sinner or Alcaraz in a Grand Slam. Um, the guys that I see that have the big games that are extremely athletic, I think Fields is one of them. Obviously, Mensik is another one of them. Um, Fonseca, right? I got a chance to see him play at Indian Wells, and I see him take Sinner to two tie breaks. So these are all up and coming guys that have big games. They're not there yet, right? They're not top 10 players yet. And there's certainly none of them have beaten Alcaraz or Sinner, but they certainly have the potential. Um, and it's good for tennis. that these guys are coming on and playing well. Although you mentioned I didn't get to see him, but you said that there was a younger American player that had a really good run at Miami.
Yeah, he played center 2 days ago, I think.
Hmm.
Uh, Mickelson, but I can't remember his name. He's
Okay,
very
so
good.
so I know Mickelson. He's got a big serve, tall guy, but a good game. Again, not somebody who's in the top 10, but has the potential to get there for sure.
Yeah, he played well, looked poised. He gave Sinner a run for his money. I think he'll be eventually on next up and coming American player. And I like the way he took the pressure with like you could tell he's young, obviously. And it seemed like the pressure wasn't really that heavy on him. So we'll see. We'll see what he can bring on the table as time goes by.
Yeah, no, and let's give a little praise to American tennis. I mean, we've seen, there's a really good core. Taylor Fritz was, the highest ranked American player for a while. He's dropped a little bit. I think he's still in the top 10. Ben Shelton is a top 10 player. Um, Tommy Paul is around the top 20. Um, I know that Tiafo has played well, and he's, maybe like a top 30 player. Michelson is there. Let's not leave out Lerner Tien. I saw Lerner Tien play a couple of times at Indian Wells, um, beat Shelton, beat Medvedev, or actually lost to Medvedev, but beat Fokina, right? So had a couple really good matches. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of talented American players, a lot of young talented American players, and it'll be interesting to see, which one of those, if any one of them, can get into the top 5 and challenge the top players. Looking forward to it.